Hey guys, it's Misha and welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about Scotland's new gender recognition reform bill, and this bill allows teens as young as 16 to change their gender through self-declaration. And now you only have to be living as that gender for 3 months, or only 6 months if you're 16 or 17. It used to be 2 years. So now that you don't need that diagnosis of gender dysphoria, it's easier to get a GRC, or a gender recognition certificate. So it's easier to change your birth certificate or other documentation.
Removing the need for medical diagnosis for a trans person who wants to legally change their gender is actually one of the purposes of this legislation, because the need for that is one of the most intrusive, traumatic and dehumanising parts of the current system.
I think the obvious issue here is that now we're allowing children to change their gender with the only requirement being to live 6 months as that gender, not even a full year. Plus the age of majority in Scotland is 18, so you can't even buy alcohol or get a tattoo until you're 18 in most cases, but you can change your gender. The closer you get to turning 25, the closer you get to your brain being fully developed. Yet we're allowing teenagers who tend to be very impulsive and irrational, I know I was, to make this kind of decision. I mean, that's insane. And we're not just talking about socially transitioning them, and then if they decide as adults that they want to get the surgery or take the hormones, then that's their right. We're saying that 16-year-olds can make that decision. That's just absurd. We're already seeing all these detransitioners, and that's just the ones that are brave enough to publicly tell us what happened. There are tons and tons of detransitioners who are silenced by their own community and who are ashamed to admit that they were wrong or that they were pushed into doing this by their school, social media, and by medical professionals, not to mention all the money that Big Pharma is getting from this. Plus, if you start to go on hormones, you are a lifelong patient. And unfortunately, a lot of physicians and psychiatrists don't always put the patient's well-being first. It's painful for them, for their families as well, mentally and physically for the detransitioner, because it's not just getting some impulsive haircut as a teenager, right? It's chopping off body parts. But if you listen closely to these gender ideologues, you'll soon find out that there's really no set of rules that you can follow to avoid becoming one of these detransitioners. Because by their own logic, you can be gender fluid, non-binary, your gender can change. So then how can you give a 16-year-old girl the green light to go ahead and get surgery if she can later change her gender and then possibly regret that surgery for the rest of her life? Ollie London recently talked about this. You might remember him from my transracial video. He used to identify as non-binary, then a trans woman and Korean, so he was transracial, and now he has detransitioned to a British man. Here's a clip of him talking about this.
Now saying in Scotland, this new bill is basically saying anyone can identify as anything they want, and within 3 months they can legally change their gender. Okay, I don't advocate for that. I think what Nicola Sturgeon has done is a complete slap in the face to all Scottish women. It's 30 people in Scotland last year that legally transitioned, that got a certificate, they went through the process.
Seriously?
30 people, so they feel that you're gay or lesbian or bi, or you might feel that you're trans or whatever. It's perfectly normal for a kid to question themselves. Doesn't mean that you have to go out there and physically change yourself and physically go through these irreversible surgeries and take these hormones that are going to give you many health implications, and there's not much research out there to show the long-term consequences of these. So I just want to say to kids, obviously live with regret. I've changed myself too much. Okay. I can barely move my face anymore, but you know, I don't want kids to go through this. I've learned from experience, you know.
Can I just say, I am so happy to see him now versus his older videos. He sounds grounded, he sounds calmer, and I'm just really glad to see that. And of course he makes great points about how it's normal for teenagers to question themselves. It doesn't mean they should be given immediate access to hormones or surgery. Puberty is a very scary time, and it's mostly girls that are transitioning. Keeping that flat chest and preventing the widening of the hips, for example, you look to transitioning into a boy, and that could seem like a solution. So we have people that are claiming it's child abuse to not allow children to transition.
Scotland has a divergent view on is that they don't have to inform the parents if at school a child is saying they are, you know, if they look like a boy but they're saying they're a girl. And I think that's absolutely right, because the idea that a parent who holds a particular prejudice and particular bigotry, as far as I'm concerned, if they don't let
parental protection, it's not just bigotry and prejudice.
If a parent tries to stop the child being themselves in the most fundamental way, as far as I'm concerned, that's child abuse.
The Scottish Parliament is claiming that this is great because the process to change your gender can take a long time, so they say we don't need any of that. It should be strictly up to the person to decide whether or not they are transgender. So yeah, let's trust a 16-year-old to research gender dysphoria and decide whether or not they have it. In fact, let's do this with all mental illnesses, right? If someone says they have DID or a dissociative identity disorder, why get them help? They don't need a diagnosis or to talk with a therapist. If they say they have DID, then they have DID. Like all the girls on TikTok that all of a sudden claim they have 500 alters, half of them being anime characters for some reason.
I'm the trauma holder.
They say they have it, they should be given immediate access to Abilify or Risperdal or whatever antipsychotic medication that they want. Forget CBT, who needs to talk to an actual professional? Now, another issue with this law is that it's putting biological women in danger, because now you have biological men who can wear a skirt for 3 months and then claim to be transgender. Now, this happened in Loudoun County, where there was a guy who sexually assaulted 2 girls in the school bathroom because of their trans policy. So any man can self-identify as a woman and have access to these spaces, not just bathrooms, but changing rooms, domestic abuse shelters, and prison. There's the case of Demi Minor, who impregnated 2 women because he was housed in a women's prison.
Hey Mike, it's Demi. I just wanted to, kind of check on everybody and give everybody an update. They changed my recreation today.
Impregnating 2 women. This woman impregnating women. Have you ever heard that before in your life? It's a crazy world, people.
So to be considered trans, in New Jersey at least, you don't need any reassignment surgery. You can just choose which prison you go to, which of course many would choose the women's prison. So if you claim that you're trans, even with all your male body parts intact, you can be housed with women. We are being asked to deny reality just to keep the woke mob happy. The parliament argues that this legislation will make trans people's lives easier, because right now it takes a very long time to get these documents, but I would argue that that's a good thing, especially when we're talking about children. And it's important when talking about potential sex offenders who may want to get that documentation to have access to these women-only spaces, because these predatory men will do anything to get that access, and this is the perfect loophole for them. He has also complained about how this bill is being discussed and debated over for such a long time, but this is very important and it shouldn't be rushed, especially when so many people are opposed to it.
The motion is therefore agreed and the Gender Recognition Reform Scotland Bill is passed. The next, we will suspend business.
All hope is not lost. The UK government might block the gender recognition bill, and I hope that they do, because it's not right to jeopardize women's safety and possibly put so many children at risk of becoming detransitioners who regret surgery for the rest of their lives, all in an attempt to appease the woke mob. That's all for today's video, guys. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and I will see you all in the next video.